committee is a committee of the National Assembly, and I'm the chairman. On my right is the Deputy Speaker, Gladys Boss. My left is the Clerk of the National Assembly, Samuel Njoroge. I'll invite members to quickly introduce themselves.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Kemani Shongo.
Nelson Koech.
David Kosing.
Gikaria David Nakruist.
Masemer.
Abdul Rahim Daud.
George Gitonga Murugara.
Owen Bayer. Stephen Mule.
Dido Raso.
Mishimboko.
Rehab Mukami.
Caleb Amisi Saboti.
Rebecca Miano, you are one of the few with the luck to be vetted twice. We did vet you just about 2 years ago, and here you are again. We'll start in earnest by inviting you to take an oath. And the oath is on the holy books, either the Quran, the Bible, or the Hindu holy book, whichever is your faith. Which one?
I will take the Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible. So be upstanding and take the Bible in your right hand and recite the oath.
I, Rebecca Miano, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. You may sit and sign to the oath. If you have your documents, as you should, you'll give them to the sergeant to pass them on to the clerk to cross-check with what we have in our possession. And when we are done with you, you leave with your original documents. In just under 5 minutes, Rebecca, for purposes of these proceedings, members will be referring to you, including myself, as nominee. So nominee, tell the committee your name, your educational background, your work experience, and your key competences that make you suitable for being recommended to take up the appointment for which you have been proposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. My name is Rebecca Miano, the nominee for the docket of tourism and wildlife. I am a lawyer by profession, having graduated from the University of Nairobi, and also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya of good standing. I have been able to do leadership trainings at Harvard University, at the IP3, and many others. I am an alumni of Strathmore University and Navarra University, Spain. I am also a certified PPP expert, having obtained that at the IP3 Institute. I have been trained on advanced negotiation skills, and also a member of the Fast Forward Premium Leadership Group that consists of leaders in Kenya. Mr. Chairman, over time, in my workstations, I have ended up in the C-suite offices, the last one being a CEO for 5 years, And in that docket, I acquired critical skills in terms of leadership, in terms of managing organizations, their operations, finance, strategies, and I'll hasten to add that one of my strengths is strategy formulation, the discipline of execution and follow-through, and to rally teams towards work plans so that we can deliver on the mandate that we have been given as a team. I have been a legal advisor with experience of over 30 years, handling all matters legal, overseeing litigation, commercial transactions. I am very conversant with the international financing models, having negotiated financing for many infrastructure projects. Mr. Chairman, I was later then appointed or sworn in as a cabinet secretary after vetting by this committee, and I took over the docket of East Africa Community, and thereafter, after a reshuffle, I moved to the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. In those dockets, I have come to get a deep understanding of the operations of government, the strategy and the manifesto that is being implemented. And Mr. Chairman, I feel that the competencies I have, which I have described, that is academic qualification, managerial and leadership, the technical skills, all those have gone a long way to hone me and prepare me for even another docket.
I will now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to go to ask you. And your answer should be concise and precise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine are really not questions, but something that issues that have been raised at with the hotel industry that we'd like some assurance should you be approved that you will undertake. Hotel industry is complaining that the classification or star rating of hotels was last done 6 years ago. If we approve you, will you ensure that that is done in the quickest time possible? Because it's making it difficult to attract tourism. Also, there is the issue of Airbnb accommodation that has caused some security challenges. And this one will require an answer. What will you do, if approved, to ensure that the Tourism Regulatory Authority has the ability to do it, or the vision you have to do that, since it's an emerging market? And lastly, the two funds, the Tourism Fund and the Tourism Promotion Fund, what can they do to support the tourism parastatal so they can execute their mandate? Thank you.
Go ahead and respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On the question of classification, it is indeed very important that hotels are classified, because then they give them world-class practice. We know that world over, classification of hotels is a necessity. And besides that, it is a requirement of the East Africa Community that hotels are classified. And back here in Kenya, if we do not do that, then our guests and the occupants will be left to classify it for themselves, which will then distort the pricing, which will distort the classes. And if I am approved, I will undertake to conclude the work that is pending on classification so that we have an objective classification system that has integrity and that will enable our hotels compete globally and even maybe be included in some of the chains because of the classification. We know that if you do not classify yourself, you find other people classifying you. And I know that if we look at the world best practice, we cannot leave our hotels without classification. It is true, and I have been briefed as I met the industry, as I met the ministry. This has been pending for the last 5 to 6 years, and indeed, this will be an imperative. It will be a priority in case I am approved to take that docket. The next question was on Airbnb. My view, Mr. Speaker, is that the case of Airbnbs is a classic example where an industry is overtaken by the growth of the industry. And I will not hesitate to say, because we have research institutions, research organizations dealing with tourism, they must be on top of the game with what is happening, the contemporary changes, so that as a country, we keep up, we foresee, we prepare ourselves. When I look at the Airbnbs, we are lagging behind as a country, as a region. We are trying to catch up, trying to avoid and maneuver issues that come up. And therefore, that being the case, if approved, I will ensure that this is also a priority so that in consultation with the other arms of governments, with other ministries that have a stake on this, we finalize the strategy, the regulations, any legislative and policy agenda that is required, so that we tidy up that space that is currently untidy, getting into security issues and all manner of things. The third question is on tourism fund taken together with the tourist promotion fund. The tourist fund is the one that funds, the one that collects levies in the hotel industry, previously the catering levy, and the tourism promotion fund is the one that collects levies from travel, international travel, and local travel, and there is a specific amount of money that then is attached to the two levies. Mr. Chairman, I have looked at the information and I have been taken through. I believe that these funds give resources that should catapult the tourism sector, the hotel industry, so that Kenya is able to compete. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I was reading the manifesto, it recognizes that the tourism sector is one of the key sectors, but it is, Kenya currently is punching below its weight. So that's a description of what we have as the tourism sector. A lot has been done, but we are still punching below our weight as a country. If you look at the numbers, Mr. Chairman, with a population of 55 million and counting, and our tourist data of about 2 million to 2.3 million visitors, that confirms that Kenya is punching below the weight. Many countries that have succeeded in tourism actually are now getting more visitors than residents, or the ratio is a little better than we are seeing in Kenya. But the contradiction that I see is that Kenya is a destination that is much better than many other destinations that are attracting very many tourists. The Creator has endowed Kenya with the weather, natural resources, people who are hospitable, and many, many other tourist attractions. But then we are still punching below the weight So these two funds should then be structured in a way that it addresses this burning platform. I'll call it a burning platform because it is urgent. It is something we need to do. And as a country, this tourism sector will be the one that will take Kenya, among the ones that will take Kenya to the next level. And therefore, we will structure, we will organize so that the fund is able to fund the critical priority activities that are required to develop and promote tourism.
Majority Leader, you have any question?
She has said what I would have asked in her preamble. I have no question.
Minority Leader? Okay, Naisula?
Honorable Miano, leadership requires that you're not only seen or heard, but your leadership must be felt by the legacies that one leaves wherever they have been. So very briefly, just mention two things that you have left as a legacy in the two dockets that you previously held in a short period of time, 2 years. What can you say are those two things? And what is the legacy you will want to leave in the docket you will hold if this committee and the National Assembly approves you? Lastly, having worked as the CS of East Africa Community, do you consider Kenya to be competitive in its tourism? There's one day I landed at JKIA. I was so happy because there were so many people from the international community who had landed at JKIA. And I was like, wow, all these people are going to Masai Mara, to the coast, or somewhere else. But then when we got to where we branch, us, the locals go, and those ones who are on transit, they all went to the transit. I don't know where they were going. So please tell us whether we're actually competitive as a country.
We'll take another. Nelson?
Thank you. Madam Game Reserve. The wildebeest migration is one of the 8 wonders of the world. There's a lot of activity, human activity, that is happening in the Masai Mara Game Reserve. I'm sure you've visited, and if you've noticed, the hoteliers there have complained of a lot of human activity. The other one is the county government of Narok recently arbitrarily increased the fee, the entry fee into the park, which has sent so many of the tourists out to Tanzania, Serengeti. What we want to do to reverse the trend?
Go ahead and answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the two things that I can say I'm proud of, I have achieved in the two dockets that I have served, in the East Africa community, arid and semi-arid lands, I am glad that we managed to make Kenya a strong partner, and our participation was visible. Because of that, we were able to resolve many non-tariff barriers so that we could have products from Kenya being taken to other countries. I remember the case of juices in Tanzania and other products. So that is one. And then the participation last year in May, public participation for the East African Confederation Constitution. Kenya was among the first countries to finalize the public participation. We went around the country explaining about the Confederation, while at it, a good appreciation across of what the East Africa community is, the positioning of Kenya, and the benefits. Under the arid and semi-arid lands docket, I took that docket or that department when we were at the worst drought in Kenya that had not been seen over the last 40 years. We were able to put strategies to manage glad that we did not lose human lives. I remember, Mr. Chairman, that every time we had a cabinet meeting, the drought, arid and semi-arid lands being a contemporary issue, I always had a brief. I always brought together the whole of cabinet and government to appreciate what is happening, and I learned the power of communication, the power of disseminating information so that everyone can rally together, especially when there is a crisis or when we are facing trouble. The question